All right, well, it's almost a full week of boot camp. And what I am really, really bad at, and it really makes me angry, although not probably angry enough to work harder on it, is remembering people's names. You know, and but I know I'm not alone because people often say the same things to me. And I do want to share a joke with you guys, if you don't mind. You want to hear a good joke about forgetting somebody's? Okay. So I heard this. Now, my dad had this isn't part of the joke, but my dad had a battle with Alzheimer's for many, many years and unfortunately passed away because of that. But I heard this joke from the professor who was giving a presentation on Alzheimer's. And so I figured if he could say it before an audience of a bunch of people, caregivers that were working with Alzheimer's patients, I could say it. So it starts off by two gentlemen are talking about hearing this professor speak about dementia and Alzheimer's and how they're forgetful. And they were looking forward to it. And the conversation then progressed where one gentleman said to the other, he said, oh, we went out to dinner the other night. It was wonderful. The food was great. The service was impeccable. And it was priced really, really well. And the other guy said, really? We'd love to go out to dinner. What was the name of the place? And he said, it's called the, you know the flower that has thorns on it and the red? And the guy said, Rose? And he says, yeah, Rose, where'd we go to dinner last night? I thought it was funny. So I am going to work harder on remembering somebody's name. As I met the Clancy family, and I said, oh, I know a Clancy, but our speaker yesterday, or 2 days ago. So without further ado, Linda O.
All righty. You ready? So I want to go back on a couple of things. One is, if I brought my basketball here again this morning, and we were doing Bij's negotiating class, and we had spent the entire time talking about best strategies to be persuasive and get people what to do, what would have happened yesterday when Amy and Kim got up here? They would have started negotiating, right? Again, priming the pump. Another thing I just want to follow up on, and which I thought was great, is Rob Ramsdell came up to me at the end of boot camp and said, I'm a really good editor, Linda. I said, okay. He said, there's some typos in your slides. And I thought, great, he volunteered. But what I wanted to get into is we talked about leadership and growing people and making everybody around you better. Why did I accept that so well from Rob? Because he's always saying nice things to me. I have probably got so much in the bank on Rob being kind, good, giving me amazing feedback. So one of the things I forgot to mention at last week's class is that if you're going to grow the people around you, if in fact you want to give them constructive feedback, you need to really work on building them up first before you start. Do not meet someone in an airplane and decide to start making them better, and your seatmate. That is not going to go over well. And for different people, it's different. Now, I have that really high emotional resilience. You can tell me almost anything. It's going to roll off me. I'm just going to make it better. I'm going to thank you. I know people that if you aren't good to them and say 10 great things, they're not going to take any criticism very well. So I just want to kind of roll that in to what we're doing here. You're going to hear from Janet Aguilar at the end of boot camp. Janet's going to come and speak about buyers, but she put this up, and I thought it dovetailed beautifully into what we're talking about. Significance is when you help others be, do, or have more than they thought possible. We talked about acting and being. That's really what this is all about. If you grow everyone around you, you will grow. So here's the fun things I found in homework. Grateful for Katie Clancy Ahern's presentation today. God, I can still feel the energy. Isn't that, amen, right? Yeah. That energy was great. But that is exactly what people need. So you need to kick it up and have that energy if you're going to have that presence. Bill Butler, in what he's looking forward to, I love this. Looking forward to a freaking productive day tomorrow. Love that. The next morning, I met him at the gym. I got there at 6, and he was already sweaty. We have photos of that for when he speaks. Jonathan Heelan, at the end, revamping my morning routine and implementing several of the tactics from Katie Clancy's 4 Ways to Own Your Time slide. Seriously, though, I needed that. Routines are everything. We are creatures of habit. I mentioned the other day, willpower will not get you to where you want to go unless you feel rewarded, unless you feel that everything around you is, good and positive. You're not going to be able to willpower through something that's unpleasant. You got to figure out a way to make everything you want. You got to make the vegetables taste good, right? You need to make exercise fun. When it's a chore, you'll do it for 2 weeks. And then that's why, I think there's a day, I don't know what day it is, it's about the 3rd week in January, when people just stop going to the gym. Like there's a big day. They've named it. All right. Del Wilson. I liked this. In addition to doing the things I said I would do, I started preparing some client-specific IMAX reports that I can use with a handful of clients that are looking for homes that don't come on the market very often. I want to keep their spirits up. That is nice. And speaking of names, his name is Del Wilson. Nothing burns his britches than when someone spells it like a computer, D-E-L-L. So in the spirit of that, remember that how you spell people's names is important. Look it up. Often I go onto Facebook to say, how do they spell that name? Does it have an apostrophe? Do they capitalize the Ellen McClellan? That kind of thing makes a difference. You're paying attention. Pixie, she's taken the challenge. She's not, on TV. 20 minutes on Facebook to post on boot camp to share in my colleagues' successes. Guys, I am drowning in homework. It takes 5 to 6 hours to just go through it. I can't get through it. I'm not going to be able to sustain this pace by the end. I can't. I'm telling you now, I need your help. We all need to boost each other up. I really am asking you all spend time to read 5 people's and give them a little boost of encouragement, a great suggestion. Thank you. That is, I'm realizing Facebook algorithms, the ones I respond to are the ones that keep coming up. I think some of you are lost are not even appearing on my feed. So I'm going to try to go through and find you. That's going to take a little extra time because that's what's happening. I love this. Yesterday, I managed to show home and call 2 past clients and text with a past client and watch Katie Clancy Ahern on Facebook Live last night with her glass of thinking juice and jazz on in the background. Loved it and loved her idea, and I plan to steal from her. Calling past people on our database to say hello and, ready? I see you didn't sell your house yet because if you did, you would have called me. That's a great line. And how would you like to know what your house is worth? Simple things. And that was Sharon Narbonne noted that. Carrie Dowland, she's in the Boston class, just went to get on the scale and mercifully the battery was dead. But you know what? And I'm someone who's always weighing myself. Am I up a pound? I have to be careful. Am I down a pound? Valerie Cogswell has released me. I'm telling you, released me. Stop dieting. Just start eating right, exercising, and breathing. The rest will figure itself out. Diets don't work because they're for a short time frame. Change the way you are eating. I've had more RX bars in the last week. But you know what a great, it's got my protein, my fat, and my carbs all in one, satisfying. She said not more than 2 a day. How easy is that? Just integrate better, good food. And here's the thing I need to tell you. Since I've been introduced to Valerie, and Bianca will attest to this, I was the Milky Way queen. 3 o'clock, I didn't care what happened, I had to have a Milky Way, usually, and a cup of tea just for the caffeine. And now I realize it was because my blood sugar was all off. I can honestly tell you, I'm not craving the chocolate. I can't even believe it. I was the person that would go to the restaurant and order the obligatory salad so I could just go to dessert. You know, that's who I've been for years. And now I'm not saying I won't have dessert, but I don't crave it or need it. I'm not hunting it down. When I was doing boot camp a couple of years ago, we were in between houses and I was living in Nagunquit and living at my mother's. I remember one night going, she's got to have chocolate in this house someplace. Where is she's gone. You know, where is my mother's chocolate? So, and those things change, but it takes all new habits. Surrounding yourself with good food. Congratulations, Stephanie Saunders, on getting your real estate license in New Hampshire. I don't know where you are, but over there. Congratulations. How nice. I loved this. This is our little quad of these super agents who joined our company recently. And I don't know why they did this. I love that they lined up all their signs. But again, just to point out, if you haven't seen them, look how there's no crap on any of the signs. How the agents are totally featured. You don't need anything else to take away from the stars who are the agents. Remember that in your marketing, because it took us 9 months to get there. Matter of fact, if you look at our sign, you're thinking, Leading Edge spent 9 months working on putting a name on a sign. Yes, because we rejected dozens and dozens and dozens of logos. And not to mention that we went to marketing experts who told us that let's start with the logo. I remember saying to someone, I think we should focus on the sign. The sign is what's out there. No. This is the process. And so there are experts. I was talking to someone about coaching. You need to be more on social media and all these things going. But she doesn't like social media. This agent is killing it. Yeah, have a presence. There's a place for it. Focus on what you're good at. What did Katie Nancy talk about? Don't stop the comparisons. Tim Dismaris, he just cracks me up. At the end, no TV unless you count the gym TV. When I asked them to shut all 12 off, they looked at me funny. It just cracks me up. We're sending love out to Tim. He had to put his dog down. Yeah. I think this Patty Nardone is someone who woke up last year at the beginning of boot camp, who had been an agent for several years doing okay. And then last year, talk about just waking up saying, I'm changing it. I'm doing it differently. I'm going to own it and be completely responsible. It was her first year to make 6 figures plus. I was so proud of her, and she's happy, and now she wants to kill it more. And she's done this because she's getting other colleagues, and they're working together. They're being accountable. Those things make a big difference. You have other people in your camp cheering you on. She's with, you see her with Virginia Todd, who, by the way, went from like 3 million to 11 million last year. That's the power of being with people and surrounding yourself with people who are rooting you on and helping you grow. Love that she's having coffee. She's committed to this. She's going to be there with a lender and an attorney. What a great idea. Now, if no one comes, she's putting it out to the universe that she's an expert, right? She's probably going to have some great idea sharing with an attorney and a lender at that time. These things are really healthy. What are you doing and committing to that you can do? Besides, you know what? She's going to have fun. This is going to be fun. It's going to be part of a routine. Business will come from it, but so many good things about it. But she's going to continue it because she's got a good group of people to carry her along. Reed Zerlo, I make plan to schedule 30 coffees in 30 days. Loved that. That's brilliant. Is there anyone that couldn't, have a cup of tea with somebody? That's going to pay big dividends. In the end, P.S. haven't had a TV in my house for years, working on using more physical activity when I'm distracted instead of Facebook. Guys, that's the time waster. There are people in Silicon Valley who are doing nothing but manipulating your eyeballs. They know how to do it. They know how to suck you in and waste your time. There are degrees in this from universities like Stanford, right? The single most important skill in the 21st century is being able to control your attention. That's it. The agents who can focus their attention where it needs to be focused are going places. Sharon, again, just because she cracks me up. At the end here, thank you, Katie Clancy. I will not be a victim or anyone's bitch. I loved that. We all need to be reminded of that. If it's important to you, you will find a way. If not, you will find an excuse. Okay, so I'm just setting this up here. Nina Clancy, I love this. At the end, she's brand new. She only got licensed in September. This is a line for everyone. Points in progress. She's not going to be having lots of points now. She's a new agent. But she's doing the things she needs to do to get points. That's the only job anyone needs. Nathan Seavey. Got offer accepted on listing. Made 3 of 5 calls and had a great time doing it. They talked so long, I couldn't get to my last 2. You know, everyone dreads, like, I'm going to make the calls, right? And then they turn out to be so enjoyable that they won't get off the phone. That's fantastic. You know, I know Nathan can probably wake up that morning going, can't wait to make the calls. But that made it easier to make the next ones, doesn't it, Nathan? I totally stole this from Ramsey, but someone said, oh, you know, wanted to get a new gift for housewarming. They send them a name tag for a puppy. When he came up with that, think about if you know the puppy's name and they have a new address. Everybody was a cat, a dog, anybody that needs a name tag. That is one of the most thoughtful closing gifts I can think of. And then Kate Cannon added, boy, you can go on Amazon for $14 and get a collar, and then $6 at PetSmart to get the tag. $20 and you are a hero. How easy is that? That is smart. I liked this. These two, they work on the same team. They work out together. 50-minute workout with Michael George. We both had trouble with it, but pushed through and it felt great at the end. 2 things. When you got a buddy, you'll push through. And it does feel good when you're done, whether it's exercise or the calls or anything else you're trying to do. You do feel so damn virtuous when you order the fish in the restaurant with the vegetables. Come on. It feels good. Cheryl Foster. Review boot camp nuggets of wisdom and implement fine-tuning nutrition, being intentional in everything I do, and finding a way to introduce yoga. What a nice summation of boot camp. And we have a great way to introduce yoga. All right. Heidi Russo again. I am really looking forward to forming new habits and dumping the word willpower and comparison. Right? And then this came in yesterday for someone who couldn't come today. Their closing got bumped. Also, I feel like I'm off the TV drugs turkey and I am just getting past the shakes and the sweats, staying strong. Today, I will not stress over things I can't control. Okay, 2 words. I want to talk about these 2 words, and I want you to be super, super aware when you use them. First of all, you are totally dead to me if you use the words, I'll try. You are dead to me. All right? Let me tell you why. And let's talk about the dynamics of this. All of you have been invited to a post-holiday party. You're spent, you don't really want to go. When someone says, Rose, can you make it? What do you say? I'm going to try to come. No, I can't go. You're going to say, I can't go. That's brave. It is cowardly to say, I'll try. What have you also done to poor Rose when you say, I'll try to come? When you don't show up, what happens? You've disappointed her. You've made it worse. She thought you might come. In fact, she bought a little extra food. I'll try is so weak. Some of you might have said, some people said, I'm going to try not to watch TV. I'm going to repeat again, yoga has said about TV, there is no try, there's only do or do not do. Next word, yet. Somebody used, I haven't watched any TV yet. What does that mean? That you're going to. All right, you guys are going to be meeting my nephew, Ramsey Fretz. His mother is a brilliant 6th grade teacher, the kind that won the award for Vermont and went to the White House and met Obama. Like, great teacher. The biggest sign in her classroom is yet, because she tells every single student that they just haven't learned how to do it yet. So be careful of that word, yet. The Moth. So I'm just trying to gauge how many people and if we might need a new venue. And now that I've asked you, do you plan to come to the Moth? Are you going to tell me you're going to try to make it? Now, if you haven't tried, but who here is definitely coming? The Moth is our storytelling hour, and it will be the most fun thing we do in boot camp. For those of you who just don't know because you haven't checked your schedule yet, who might come but you're not committing, you're not saying I'll try. Is there anyone else? Okay. I think we're going to probably fit. All right, we're going to be okay. That's all I need to know. Thank you very much. Oh, that did that again. Yoga. It's going to start next week. This is your chance to introduce yourself, Cheryl. We have yoga mats. We bought them for $25 after we printed them. You can buy a yoga mat here. It's breathing. It's stretching. As Steve Chuha has said, if we called it stretching class, more guys would show up. All right? Come, relax, try it. Christine does a beautiful class. And it won't be hard. It's not death by yoga. We did bring an instructor in once, and Howie Schulman said, oh my God, this is death by yoga. We're not doing death by yoga.
I'm going to put something in the Facebook group so everyone can sign up if they'd like to go.
Okay, in the Facebook group, you'll be able to sign up. We'll probably put a link to sign up also in the boot camp that goes out for today when that goes out. All right, I'm going to introduce you to my nephew, Ramsey Fretz. He was a summer intern with me, and in between his sophomore and junior year, he came back to work with me in 2013. And that kid got off to a roaring start. He did study commercial real estate with his degree at Villanova. But this is what I remember, is in the first 6 weeks of working at Leading Edge, he put 8 things under agreement. And I can assure you he had no idea what he was doing. All right? He has an interesting background. Highly dyslexic. Every time we went to visit in the summer, Ramsey was in reading camp. He had so many head injuries. He got a bike accident, big head injury, concussion. Then after he was getting better, he went to a UVM hockey game, got knocked in the head with the puck. What's the luck of that? And he'll tell you a little bit more about that. But what I can tell you is he developed the most amazing skills to compensate for any deficiencies he had. There's not one of us here who isn't full of deficiencies. Play to your strengths. That is what Ramsey has absolutely mastered. And talk about perseverance. I still remember when he was new on his unicycle, we were at some river having a picnic, and there was a branch across the river. He said, I'm going to go across. He didn't make it, but he didn't hesitate to try it. There's a lot of wild heart in Ramsey that has led him to a lot of success. And with that, I'd like to introduce one of my 2 favorite nephews, Ramsey Fretz.
Thank you very much, Linda. I think that was a nice way to intro me. I'm not entirely sure. And also, by the way, I did enjoy Monday with Valerie. I got really excited about it. But I also figured out that she's wrong, because I got food poisoning on Monday, and I'm down 7 pounds. So come talk to me. I'll tell you where to eat if you want to lose a couple pounds. So Linda has asked me to speak about commercial real estate today. And by the way, I want to thank her again for letting me speak today. And I'm also going to be speaking another time for the next class about the investment side of real estate as well, cap rates and everything else. And I really appreciate that she allowed me to come today, because I know how much work it is to put together this many classes. But backing up before I actually jump into the presentation, a little bit about me. So it's really funny today that I am the one who's speaking about commercial real estate and investments and analytics and math, because I was always the bottom third of math class. I was actually the bottom third of most classes when I was younger. But I was never very good at math. I was never very confident in it. I was never very sure of myself. And in a lot of ways, that's still true. And so after those head injuries in high school, lost about a year and a half of school, no short-term memory for about a year, didn't really know if I was going to go to college. Did finally make my way there. And in college, because I was getting a commercial real estate degree, which is basically a degree in finance and marketing as well, I had to take calculus, upper level statistics, a bunch of hard classes, and a bunch of classes that I didn't really know how to do. And I remember in the first week in calculus, I walked in, they sat down, and the professor said, we're going to do a 20-minute piece on trig, because I know you have all taken it before, but let's just do a little bit of recap because it's going to be part of the formulas that we're going to be using this afternoon. So everyone takes out their notebook, and I take out my phone, and I Google, what is trig? And so that was the hardest class of my life. And so the reason I like to say all of this is because 90% of you in this room are not the math people. 90% of you look at this and go, oh, I'm not really sure I'm going to be good at this. Because most brokers are naturally not that analytical type. And how I became the math person is not by getting good at math. I still suck at calculus. Is because I understood and was able to learn that the math that we do in real estate, the formulas, all of it, really comes down to problem solving and thinking in a linear way. There is no complex theory here. I can build you a pro forma that's 6 pages and future value projections, but if I can't make it make sense on a napkin, it's never going to make sense. And that's what I want everyone to take away. We're going to do the napkin version of most of that. But I'm going to jump in now, and I did negotiate this with Linda right before the class started. I usually get to talk about the fun stuff. I get to have people leave and they're like, yeah, let's go sell some goddamn real estate. That's not going to happen today with commercial real estate. And because of that, I got a 5-minute section on suits. And I negotiated because I wanted to talk about something fun for a little bit. So bear with me. For the women in the audience, if you have someone in your life that is stuck in the 80s or it doesn't quite fit or whatever else, hopefully you learn something. And for the men, I'm not saying that you're supposed to wear a suit every day, but what I'm saying to everyone is that we are defined by how we present ourselves. Our resume is the first 3 minutes. The reason we drive flashy cars is maybe because we like them, but mostly because the clients know we know what we're doing when we show up. And so if you do want to dive into suits a little bit, or if you want to get into that, we're going to have to go through this. Take a 5-minute break if you don't want to hear about it. But here we go. So first of all, this is Sean Connery, James Bond, really the only James Bond in my opinion, wearing a beautiful shawl collar tux, nice little bow tie, just a little bit of pocket square in the corner as it should be. Size matters. It's always true. Every suit, and everyone's going, is this really happening? It is happening. And here we go. You're always starting in the shoulders, everyone. So if your suit doesn't fit in the shoulders, it's never going to fit. Everything, that is the skeleton of the suit. So you always have to make sure they start in the shoulders. What most men do is they put on that right size suit and they go, great. And then they get one size bigger because it's more comfortable. This is not sweatpants. I'm not doing jumping jacks. Actually, if I go up any higher, everything will come out and it'll be a mess. That's supposed to happen with a suit. When you're wearing a suit, you're not supposed to be really raising your arms and moving boxes. And so you got to start with that shoulder. You notice here that it kind of lips up a little bit. It's too big of a suit. If you actually take all your clothing off and look inside at the mirror, your shoulders don't go back up at the end. So if your suit does, it looks a little bit funny. Cuffs, nice little 1/4 inch, 1/4 of an inch on that corner. Everyone does the same thing. They buy their suit, it kind of fits, and then they don't have those cuffs tailored. It's not expensive, it's easy to do. And then all of a sudden you will look like you're wearing your dad's suit going to prom. So you want to make sure that you just have that little bit of cuff showing. Pants, they're meant to be hemmed. Here I like to have basically a flat hit on the shoe. I'll do a spin for everyone if you want to see. But same thing. If you buy a really nice pair of pants, you know how sometimes they're like 16 feet too long? It's designed that way because you're supposed to go to your tailor, you're supposed to spend $12, and you're supposed to look good. If you have extra folds at the bottom of your pants, your legs look shorter. And there's not a lot of guys in this room who want to look shorter. All right, we're not done. Oh my God, it keeps going. 1, 2, or 3 button suits. The only rule for that is sometimes, always, never. For the last 140 years, you have never buttoned the bottom button. If I was to button this right now, this is completely appropriate. This is the worst thing you've ever seen in your entire life. It's that simple. It came out of a British royalty. A fat guy couldn't figure out how to button the bottom, and so we haven't done it since. That is true, I think. Two-piece suits, that's the classic. That's what I'm wearing today. You can wear a three-piece. If you're wearing a three-piece suit with the vest, make sure it's perfectly tailored. Make sure you really mean it. You're going to look like a gangster from the 30s if you do it wrong, so be very careful. Double-breasted is coming back, which is the little bit fold over. It's from the 80s, but they're very different. I like to wear them a lot, but they're a little bit more difficult to wear. And then flat front pants versus pleated. If you have enough fabric in your pleats where you could take out the little strings and open up twice the size, it's a problem. So most of the pleated pants have to go. We're almost done, guys. Lapels, notch, peak, and shawl. I'm wearing a notch today. Peak is, I would say, a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more European. It's a little bit more of that power suit look. And then the shawl, most of the time you see it at tux. A midnight blue shawl collar tux. There is nothing better than in the entire world. So that's for that. And then lastly, just looking at some people, too large, too baggy. You lose the knee, you lose the shape of the leg, you lose the actual crispness in the front. Nicely fitting. And then, of course, I would say a very well-tailored suit. I think that's it. Oh, this looks like suits? We're back to commercial real estate. All right, we all made it through it. So the reason this slide is up is because commercial real estate has not changed since commercial real estate started. And what I mean by that is there is no best practices for the most part. There is no cooperation that's expected. There is no prices online. There is no set commission structure to the other side. There is no rules. There is no consumer. So there's no one to protect. This is not governed by a highest and best practices standards. And because of that, it's a little bit like the Wild West. And you have to be very careful how you get involved in it. And you have to make sure that you're up to the task because it can get a little bit messier. So first, to start, where are you actually searching for commercial real estate? Most of you have probably had someone in your life call and say, I am looking for a commercial space, and then you look on MLS and there's nothing, and then you Google it, and then you find LoopNet. And that is one of them. That's actually owned by CoStar, but LoopNet is a free program, and you can only see about 40% of what's on the market. CoStar is the main one. That is the commercial version of our MLS for residential agents. CoStar is a for-profit company. It's a conglomerate. They basically own most of the other search sites. And because of that, it's much more expensive. It's probably $500 to $1,000 a month, depending on what kind of package you have. But it's a really nice program. And also CityFeed is another local one. And then, of course, you do have MLS. What properties are on MLS? Well, those are from most of the residential brokers to other residential brokers. So you're looking at a very small portion of the market when you're looking at that MLS. This is CoStar. It's a fantastic platform. It's much more interactive than MLS. I can go through and I can do all the history for all properties, what's for lease, what's for sale, all the sale comps, lease comps, tenants, analytics, and full lease analysis if I'm building out a pro forma for future valuation leases. I can drag a pin and I can say, I want to pick every single office space that's Class B in Massachusetts that's between 12,000 and 12,500 square feet. And I can get the entire state in about 2 seconds. I can say, I just want to have corridors where there's over 25,000 cars a day passing if it's a retail space. It's an incredibly interactive platform, but also it's very hidden. Most of these little dots, every single one of those is a property. They won't have the price on them, and they won't have a lot of details, and probably 10 or 15% of them will also have, old information. They might have already sold, they might have already leased. So you have to be very careful about this because when you put it on, there's no expiration date. You don't actually have to show that you ever had a contract signed to put them on. I could literally put this building on today without a price, without an actual location. I could do undisclosed without a listing agreement. And of course, I'd get in trouble over time, but it would probably take about 6 months for someone to catch it. That's how difficult it can be to actually track this market. So there's a lot of common terms in real estate. The reason I do this section is because I probably get 2 to 3 calls a week where people just say, I saw this on a commercial site, I saw this on LoopNet, what does this mean? We're going to start with lease terms. So the first one is triple net. And by the way, there's 3 major sections of the lease, or a type of lease, I should say. And it doesn't matter if it's retail or office, industrial, flex, or anything else. The first one is a triple net lease. A triple net lease is usually seen just as NNN online. So if you see that, you know what you're looking at. Triple net is defined where the landlord is pushing off all of the costs associated with the property to that tenant. And there's occasionally a few little things where this isn't the case, but this means that if you're buying or renting, a single unit building, you have 10,000 square feet, you're going to be paying for, as the tenant, you're going to be paying for the taxes, you're going to be paying for the water, sewer, utilities, insurance. You might be paying and have responsibilities for the leaking roof as well. So this is the first major set. High-end Class A buildings are often triple net. If you go to retail on Newberry Street, those are almost all triple net leases. And then also those freestanding are usually triple net as well. The second one is modified gross. This is most of what you're going to see in the market. This is the standard for the average office or the average retail space. This is just basically sharing some of those costs, sharing some of those duties as a landlord and as a leasee. The breakdown of this is most likely the landlord's going to be paying for the base taxes. If the taxes go up, the tenant might be responsible in those following years. The landlord's probably going to pay for the insurance and for the maintenance of the structure of the building while you take care of the interior. If your sink leaks in the unit or whatever else, it's still probably going to be on that tenant. And then also the tenant's going to be responsible for the utilities and interior maintenance and any other kind of little thing that would be a standard cost, any internal insurance, stuff like that. And then there's a gross lease. That's the last one that we see. We don't see it as often. This is where the landlord is, I would say, responsible for 99% of the costs outside of the base rent. You see this a lot in a 1980s office park where they didn't even split up the electric when they originally built it. And so there is no real specific way to break it up. And so it's all factored into that rental rate. I always have clients who ask me, I'm really looking for a gross lease or I'm looking for a modified structure. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you have a triple net, a modified gross, or a gross lease. What you're looking at is the total number. How much does this property cost me? Combined with how much variability in this lease can there be? So if you're working with a tenant and it's a triple net lease, and you're on Newberry Street in 2015, if we go back a couple of years, you're going to be paying for the taxes. Well, in 2016, Newberry Street saw a massive change in valuations on the street because there was a couple large sales. In my opinion, they did a bit of spot assessing, and all of a sudden, all of the assessed values on that street went up by $1 to $2 million usually. At a $17 per thousand tax rate, all of a sudden, these poor little tenants who had a base rent of $12,000 a month for their space went to $17,000, went to $15,000. And it took a lot of businesses out of commission. And so as their broker, you want to make sure you understand what is that flexibility. The last piece I'll say about these leases is that if you try to negotiate from triple down to modified or something like that, you're usually going to wind up charging or costing your client more money because you're not actually negotiating the bottom line, you're negotiating how you're negotiating. And that doesn't really make any sense. And so if the landlord's saying it's a triple net, keep to the triple net, but try to get the rent lower. All right, this is probably the most common question that I get. People call me and say, I saw a property on MLS and it's listed for $7. What the hell does that mean? Well, what they're telling you there is that it's not $7 a month or anything else like that. It's $7 per square foot per year. And so what you always want to do is you're going to take that $7 and you're going to take that 1,000 square feet and you're going to say, okay, it's $700 a month, or then you can times it by 12 and you can get to your yearly cost. The reason that they're putting that in there is for most commercial spaces, unless it's a small defined retail space or something like that, most of these larger buildings, they don't have just one space available. You might be able to take 2,000 or you might be able to take 20,000 square feet or anything in between. And so they don't want to pigeonhole themselves and say this is the specific price this is going to cost. They want to say this is the expected blended range in cost, and then we'll have a conversation about how much space you take from there. And so when you see that, you're just multiplying it by the square footage and dividing by 12 to get to that monthly cost. CAM, this is common area maintenance. I only put it on here because they never actually write out common area maintenance. The cleaners in the hallways, any of the other additional building expenses can be passed on to that tenant. And so you just want to know what those CAM charges are. This is very important in one way, that if you own, if you're leasing a common area maintenance, if you're leasing a 2,000 square foot space and the CAM charges are additional $2.25 per foot, you always want to, as the broker, you want to know where that cost is coming from. I recently had a lease down in Hyannis, I worked with a medical company. They leased about 25,000 square feet. And the CAM charges were exceptionally high. And we were supposed to be paying for them. And I looked at what it was, and it turned out that a huge portion of it was a cleaning company that was owned by the owner of the building. And so you just want to understand, where are these costs coming from? And are they real? And we negotiated that back because it didn't make any sense, and he was double dipping. Letter of intent. This is your LOI. Letter of intents are extremely important in commercial real estate. There are situations where you don't use them, but those are few and far between, in my opinion. Most of the time, on a complex lease, if it's a simple, 1,000 square foot, $10, a foot, basic retail, whatever it is, I probably will just go direct to a lease or something like that. But for anything with complexity, you're starting with that letter of intent. The whole point of a letter of intent is, in a lot of ways, it's like an offer in real estate. We know that an offer isn't particularly binding on that buyer. What they're trying to do is projecting the general terms that they're hoping to put this deal together with. And so the same thing happens with the letter of intent. Sometimes we get these 6-page letter of intents. They're missing the whole point. I'm not trying to get the attorneys involved day one. I'm trying to understand if we have general terms between the two parties that make sense so we can really dive into negotiations. So my letter of intents are always 1 page. Doesn't matter if it's a $7 million, 25-year lease with 4 options to continue. And it doesn't matter if it's a 3-year basic one. What I really want to make sure is to say, this is our general concept of what we're looking for. Does this generally work for you? And then we bring in the attorneys. And by the way, would you want to bring in attorneys every single time you actually write an offer? Would you like to make it complex enough where you feel like you have to? That's what happens. And people try to make it more complex because, 1, they want to show value to their clients, and 2, they want to make sure it looks really serious. But you don't have to. Yep.
So you write the LOI?
I do, yeah. And I can send it to anyone here. I can even I have little blank sections. It's very straightforward. It's non-binding. And you're just adding in those unique terms to the deal as well. Usable versus rentable square footage. This is a very important breakdown. If you're looking for a 10,000 square foot building, and there is, let's call it 10 units as well that are all 10,000, but the building is 110,000 square feet, that means that you're going to have an extra 1,000 square feet that you are most likely paying for that's not inside of your unit. And so when you're looking at the usable, that's the space that you have. That makes perfect sense. But the rentable is also proportional to the shared spaces in the building. If there's a hallway, if there's bathrooms somewhere, if there's a cafeteria, you're likely going to be paying for that. The only reason I bring this up is because a lot of times people don't realize the difference. They think they're going to be negotiating off of just that usable square footage, and then all of a sudden the landlord comes back and say, well, it's actually going to be this cost, and their clients are very surprised about that additional fee. So you want to make sure you understand what that rentable square footage is. Concessions, tenant improvements, or rent abatements. The reason I write TI is because that's what you're going to see online everywhere. It's called tenant improvements. This is very important because it's a big part of the negotiating process in a commercial lease. If you take go back to Newbury Street in Boston for a second. If you take a 10-year lease on a space in Newbury that is in really rough condition, you're going to go to that landlord and you're going to say, listen, we're going to do $500,000 of build out to this space. It's a $25,000 a month lease. We want $250,000 of that cash up front to help with the renovations, or we want 6 months of free rent, or whatever else it may be. There is no wrong answer on tenant improvements or rent abatements. There is a standard where if you have you're looking for about a month to 3 months for a 3 to 5 year lease, in a standard situation. But the reality is that people usually kind of bludgeon forward and say, okay, I'm trying to get my client as much cash as possible, or I'm trying to get as much free rent as possible. But what you want to do is you want to look at the whole situation. If this is a really rough space on Newbury Street, and you're building a art gallery, which at the end of the day is a very beautiful vanilla box, that landlord's going to be much more likely to want to give you actual money, because if you leave, he's going to have a better product. If you're building a bouncy castle house, where everything you do in there is incredibly specific to you, he's going to want to give you as little as possible. Also, if your clients have the cash to do the renovations themselves, the landlord will be much more likely to want to give you free rent than cash, and you're going to actually get more money out of that. Why is that? Because who wants to give up liquidity? He doesn't want to give money up front. He'd much rather write off loss for a longer period and not collect. And so you always want to make sure that you're negotiating not just in the way that your client thinks is in their best interest, but is actually going to get them the best number on the bottom line. And then, of course, the sublease clause. You need to make sure it's in the lease. You don't know how long your tenant's going to stay. They think they're going to stay for 10 years, but if they don't, you want to have the ability with the landlord approval to bring in a subtenant to make sure that they're not going to be on the hook if they have to leave. All right, getting paid. This is the second most common thing. Actually, it's people's favorite question, but it's the second most common one I actually get for leases specifically to start. So often you'll see a 54321 or something equivalent. This is basically and it can be different in every situation, and there is no actual standard. But if you're doing a 5-year lease, something that you'll see a lot is trying to get paid 5% the first year, 4% the second year, 3%, and so on, with a 1% continuation past those first 5 years. Most leases average out to about a 3 to 3.2% of the total rent price. You're going to be getting that number half upon lease execution and then half upon move-in. The reason for that is sometimes build-out can be that 6 months, and the landlord doesn't want to pay you until they start seeing some money coming in as well. So there can be that gap in time. You can get paid dollar per square foot. You know, there's a very consistent practice, I'd say, in Class A office space in downtown Boston, where you get paid, maybe $1.25, $1.75 per square foot per year. Ultimately, it doesn't matter how you get paid. It matters how much you get paid. And so you want to make sure that you're negotiating a reasonable proportion of this lease. Small leases, there's very little money in it. Large leases, there's incredible amounts of money in it. I think it was, I can't remember which biotech just released a space in Cambridge. It was about a $12 million lease. The broker's going to get paid $350,000, $400,000 at least. There's guys in Boston right now, and gals in Boston, who are making 40, 50 million as a team, because these commercial leases can be astronomically large when you're thinking about the size of some of those businesses. And like I said, 50% and then 50%. No formal standard. There is no box in most of these sites to put in what you're even offering someone. What I will always tell people is you're going to have to protect your fee. If you imagine in MLS that there was never a fee offered to our side, how would you try to protect yourself? You get a contract, and you make sure that you're getting your professional fee written into that contract, so when you go see something, you're protected. You have to do that every single time in commercial, or else you will get cut out. I've actually had commercial closings happen where they say, hey, we're not going to pay you. And then they're actually testing to see if you're willing to go to court with them. They don't want to go to court either, but there is no rules. There's no board to go to for something like that. And so you just have to be ready for that fight. Getting paid on sales, it is similar to residential. The fee structure, like I said, is not set in stone, and it's also not set side to side. I showed about 150,000 square foot building in Danvers for a biotech company. And in the LOI to go see the property, or not the LOI, excuse me, the non-disclosure agreement to see the property, it actually had written into it that I would not be looking to collect a fee from the sellers or the seller's representative. So they actually wrote into the ability to see the property that I was not going to get paid from them. And that's a standard practice by a lot of larger offices for these larger spaces. And so if you don't have that contract up front, you can get in a lot of trouble. All right, financing. And this is quickly going into the buy side of it. Financing structure is a little bit different than the residential side. I am not an expert on this because I'm not a banker, I'm not a lender, but I still do see this a lot. So I'd like to go over a couple pieces of it. So in residential, the lender is looking at, and the bank is looking at, obviously, the buyer, and then they're doing a quick inspection of the property, or they're going in and having an appraisal done. It's we've all done them. It's 15 minutes, they're in and they're out, and they're just checking if the value makes sense. In commercial real estate, they're doing all of that due diligence on the buyer the same way, but then they're looking at the property in a huge amount of detail, because they're basically looking at this lending as, can the buyer support this property, and then can the property support itself on its own as well. And what I really mean by that is, if there's a fully leased building, and they don't think the rents are high enough, the bank might say no. If you have an empty building that you just need to put a tenant in, and you're fully qualified to get the loan, the banks may say no. The banks get to make these choices on basically whatever they'd like. There is, again, no standard rules and regulations. I would say there's still some, but in general, there's no real regulations on what they can or cannot do. They're doing a gut check as an individual on if this deal makes sense. And so you're going to have to be looking into 21Es, which is environmental issues with soil and contamination. You're going to have to do pro forma projections and future valuation projections if it's empty or if it's not rented for enough. You're going to have to do a full system review. They might actually hire an inspector to check out the roof membrane, to check all the systems, because if those go wrong, They're worried that that buyer might default. And they also want to look at tenant class and lease structures. If you've got a Chipotle in a space, which is a Class A tenant, the bank's going to be perfectly fine with it. But if you've got Gary's garage, and it's just Gary, and he has no other financial backing to that lease, they still might reject the loan purely based off of that. And so you have to make sure that you're doing a lot of due diligence up front. You're working with a really good local lender. I know it's important in residential, but it's a must in commercial to be working with something really local and who really knows the market. Because someone from Woburn will lend differently in Woburn than they will in Stoneham. It can get that specific. And then lastly, there is no 30-year fixed. You don't have that option. You're usually getting a 20-year loan with 4 lock periods. So every 5 years, there's going to be a turnover, and they're going to be reassessing that actual variable rate. And so when you're doing your whole projection on rent rolls and how it's going to make its money, you need to have a pretty good gap on equity in that property and on return on that property, specifically because if that interest rate changes in 2 years, you're going to be moving with it. And I think that is it for me.
All right.
Thank you very much.
So yesterday when Ramsey talked about suits, he was rushed at the end with guys like, you talk about the ties, what about the socks? He'll answer those questions later. All right. So we talked about priming the pump. And what I want to discuss here very specifically is the psychology of listing. How to get inside the consumer's head so that they'll be successful. Because has anyone experienced sellers sabotaging themselves left and right throughout the entire transaction? Yes. So you got to get ahead of it. For those of you at Leading Edge, some of you have seen this presentation. I'm looking at Michelle Goodwin. 10 times easy. Easy. It doesn't change a lot. But I'll get into that later. And hope you just soak this in. This is the magic when it comes time to real estate. So understand this. I'm going to start with Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt Chamberlain goes down in NBA history as the basketball player who scored the most points in any game ever. He once scored 100 points. In that game, he shot 28 of his 32 free throws, which was amazing for Wilt Chamberlain. When he did that, he was doing something fundamentally different. And this is him.
Except under pressure. Although not the greatest foul shooter, Wilt can make them when there is something at stake. Today, it's only the last 2 points in the game. It's clutch time now. The 76ers take the lead by 1.
And some have actually theorized that.
Isn't that different? So Wilt was, did you hear him say it? A notoriously bad free throw shooter. He was shooting around 40%. In the NBA, they range between 60 and 80%. Bad free throw shooter. And when you're a bad free throw shooter, who gets fouled the most? They do, because, chances are he's not going to make both baskets or he'll only make one. Do you foul the really great free throw shooter? No, they're going to go to the line and score 2 points. It fundamentally changes the game. In this particular year, Wilt Chamberlain's best year of his life, he shot underhand. And then he stopped. Cold turkey. He didn't do it anymore. Here's a goalie, and everyone knows what a penalty kick is. And when you have a penalty kick, what you're trying to do is it's you against the goalie, right? And goalies understand each player's statistics. They know if they're right-footed or left-footed. If you're right-footed, your best shot's to the left, and if you're left-footed, the other direction to the right. That's how it works. So it's a total psychic game between the goalie and the kicker on which way do I need to go? How am I going to defend this goal? Am I going to go left or am I going to go right? The goalie only stays in the center 3% of the time. They go left or they go right. If that's the case, where should every soccer player kick the ball? Dead center. They won't do it. Does that make sense? What does Wilt Chamberlain and this soccer player have in common? Why do people do dumb things when they know they are dumb? All right? Why do they do it? That's the fundamental underpinning of today. Why do people do dumb things when they know they're dumb? Why wouldn't Wilt shoot underhanded anymore? They say if he had, they would have been undefeated. Undefeated if Wilt would have done it. So I got this from Malcolm Gladwell. He has a great podcast. It's Revisionist History. And he said, I was so astounded by this. He walked himself down to Columbia University and got in with the girls' basketball program. And he asked them, hey guys, have you ever shot underhanded? You know what they said? You mean the granny shot? No. So he took one of their players, put her up on the foul line. She shot underhanded once, missed, and then she continued to shoot them right into the basket, having never practiced it. There's a guy named Rick Barry. He goes down in history in NBA as the best foul throw shooter ever. He was at like 91, 92%. Guess how he shot? He shot underhanded. He said, it makes sense that your hands are usually here. That we're not used to doing things from over our head. By the way, it's a softer shot. So if you need a little grace and forgiveness, it'll roll in versus the hard shot from the top. There's only 2 players in the NBA right now that shoot underhanded. Rick Barry's son and some international player whose name I cannot pronounce. Why do people do things that are dumb when they know that they're dumb? Well, why won't they do it?
Because everybody else is doing it the other way.
Because everybody else is doing it the other way. Exactly. They don't want to stand out. They don't want to be different. You know, what is it? Some kind of shame to stand out? Their ego got in the way. So what I'm going to propose to you is that real estate agents all do things the same way as everybody else does them all the time because they don't want to stand out and be different. Particularly when it comes to listing. The listing process, for the most part, has not changed, save for the internet. How you go and meet with the buyer, the seller, to their home since the dawn of time of real estate. Everyone does the same thing. Someone calls you, they want you to come over, you go over, and you do your dog and pony show. Everybody does it the same. And you're doing it the way you were taught, the way you were mentored to do it. I'm kind of really good at listing. Mom and I were killing it. We're the #1 agent in our market, 15 years running in the board over and over. We peaked at 90 listings a year. And when I did that, I thought, I can list and sell in my sleep. I'm going to do this differently. And we started to think about every part of the process differently, and we were willing to be different, and it paid dividends. So let's go through this. What are the points of pain in a listing presentation? What are the things that drive you crazy? About the sellers, what kind of pain do they cause? They don't listen to you. That's, you know exactly what you want to tell them, and they're not listening. That's right. Do you like to be told what to do? Raise your hands if you like to be told what to do. That's the problem. We're telling them what to do. What else?
They think their house is worth more than anyone else's, and the other people they're bringing up, they sold 2 or 3 years ago or whatever.
So in other words, you've met a seller that thinks his house is worth more than you do? Really? How unusual. What else? What are the other points of pain in a listing process? Commission. I mean, Redfin will do it for 1%. Certainly, you can do it, they're all the same. Why aren't you doing it for 1%? What else? It's one more big one. Kristen, you got it. Not willing to prep your house. Were you going to say that? They don't want to paint. Don't make me stage. The buyers have, their own taste. Why should I pick the wall color, right? Why should I mean, you don't want me to do a new countertop? The buyers will want to pick that out. This is what we're up against all the time. Ramsey makes fun of me. This is my favorite real estate slide. I'm just warning you now. If you ever join the company, you're going to see it in all my presentations. It's my favorite. Why is it my favorite? This was an internet sensation when this happened. This poor guy was at Deer Valley, and how many things have to go wrong to find yourself hanging upside down from a chairlift with your pants around your ankles? And the reason this is my favorite slide is because this is the position I see agents in all the time. All the time. They're always in crisis and chaos. And I'm going to suggest to you, for the most part, it's your own damn fault. You haven't set the expectations. You haven't prepared people properly. You don't have good checklists. You have to have the systems in place to avoid the problems. Now, I'm not saying you can avoid all the problems. Just like we talked about my daughter's wedding, the wind we could not control, but everything else could be controlled. And I became a control freak. And you need to know that I am not naturally organized. I'm an extroverted driver. I don't have time for all the paperwork. That was never my thing. But I disciplined myself because what I decided was I didn't have time for all the crap that happened in real estate. One bad title issue and boom, your day is ruined. You're driving to New Hampshire to get a death certificate or something crazy, right? So I spent all my life trying to figure out all the systems so that stuff didn't happen. Or as Ramsey would say, I tried to, you're going to say it?
Well, I don't have it.
Pre-resolve things.
Absolutely.
What were you going to say, Rams?
I was actually just going to say, we can switch over this now. That's all right if you want to.
Yeah, just keep moving along. Thank you. Ramsey hates the slide. Okay, thanks, Rams. But what I realized is when I put everything in place and got the systems down, my life got better, and so did my clients. They didn't have time for the crap either. And you're totally responsible for their state of mind, how you've prepped them, how you've motivated them to do the things that are in their own best interest so they are not sabotaging themselves. I've had so many people that talk to me and went, oh, Linda, I want to hire you, but I'm not ripping the rugs up. I'm telling you right now, I'm not painting. That's okay. They don't have to. But there's a way to get them to do it even though they start there. Because I can't stand leaving a dime on the table. Every now and then you give in, they're just not going to do it. But there's a way to get them there. So when you all got into real estate, didn't you think this is what you were going to be selling? I'm selling the penthouse. Beautiful views of Boston. I feel like Vanna White. I'm just going to go out and show property all day long. This is going to be so easy, right? Because this is real estate, right? When in fact, we all know it's the bizarre bazaar. This is what real estate is. I just got this off the Andover tour recently. This house is probably still on the market, surprisingly. Who picked out lime green rug with those red walls, right? This is first, upholstered cabinets. Now think about this. If you go in to meet the seller, how excited have they done this? Right? Okay. By the way, the word that kills a listing is custom. That is a toxic word, and your seller thinks it's awesome. This is custom done. It's just, how many other people, the buyers that are going to line up for upholstered cabinets, you're going to need tickets at the door. All right? All right? I think one of my agents shot this photo and sent it to me. I can't remember. I'm sorry I don't know the attribution of it. But found this in a house. Was that you? Thank you, Marilyn Ellis. It's in Methuen. It's not far from here. See, I do keep this stuff. I can't, I do. If you see, this is what I'm looking for. I really appreciate it. All right? You got your doors? Let's make that work. Let's not, make the hole bigger. That, all the work that they go to. All right, look at this. Look how I title it. Boot Camp 2020 for sale by owner, selling more than her bathroom. She is butt naked under that shirt. This was on Zillow. Thank you, Sharon Cronin, for bringing this to my attention. All right. I added the star. It was not there. In fact, unless someone has taken it down, it still might be there. It's up in Newburyport. Just want to let you know, not far from here. All right? This is, we deal, remember I talked about the general public the other day? All right, and then it's not just people, it's stupid agents. Virginia Todd went to show this house. It's a beautiful house. Look at the house that was there. How disappointed were her clients? Agents do this. But look you can't see the way they've done it. This other house next door. You can oversell a house. We're famous for doing beautiful photos and then people are disappointed. You've got to set expectations. There was a house Mary had one day and she said, Linda, I'm having a big problem. I just had the photographer come. The problem is this house looks good in the photos. It looks great. I did have them paint. It's full of smoke. There's mold in the basement, the furniture. I'm just telling you, it looks bad. So we wrote a description property, which included the photos look better than it really is. Because we did. We had to have a discussion with the seller ahead of time. Because do you know how many people thanked her at that first open house? We did set the expectation. I wouldn't surprise a seller with something like this. They're not going to be pleased to see it. But when Mary had a kind, loving conversation with them about the condition of their house and how we need to attract the right buyer, that's the only way she sold this thing. Not to mention, I think there was a heroin addict in the basement. I mean, we had a lot going on, right? And so set the expectations. I love Aldo's headline here. Sometimes it's more obvious why home staging is best left to professionals. Just great stuff. All right, so I did not understand this till yesterday when we showed it in Boston. I said, who orders an awning, has it custom monogrammed, and then doesn't do it so it fits, and then doesn't, center it? Do you know what he said to me? It's the door that's not centered. It's centered under the peak of the garage. So many things going wrong there. You know what? I would say that your awning is highlighting the problem. Okay, so you got to be careful. My realtor told me I should clean up, so I'll just pile everything in the middle of my living room. What do they call a kitchen and a bath? It's a bitchin', all right? All right. So now you've got, they've redone the staircase. I love the Brickmaster. You love the Brickmaster here and all that fake brick and all that 1970s paneling. They've, conveniently relocated the staircase and turned it just for the perfect feng shui, I am sure. How about this? My oven door doesn't close, but for that industrial look, I'll add a hanger to keep it closed. All of the convenience of a, entertainment center without any of the benefits. There we go. Extreme ensuite. These are MLS photos. Just saying, right? This one I use all the time because I'm thinking about the amount of time some seller put in to not building a threshold, which is what this is screaming for, but individually cutting the wood floor around all this tile. These are the problems you have when you get there. They love this. As my mother used to say, when they picked out that orange shag rug, it was great. They love their avocado Formica cabinets. Whatever it is that they picked out, they picked it out and love it. Okay, let's list 9 objections every listing presentation should cover. And these are things you should cover before they ask you. Ready? Price. How it's done. We're going to super focus on price on Monday because I've come up with a whole new way to do this listing price thing. Condition and what it means. Commission. Always, as Ramsey says, you don't want to ever be asked, what is your commission? It's too late. You're now on the defense. You're on your heels. You need to tell them up front and then shut your mouth up and let it sit. Print and media advertising. Because if my house isn't selling, you know what you need to put it in the Wall Street Journal and Architectural Digest and the Boston Globe, right? Isn't that what you need to do? Because that will for sure sell it. How are you handling that? And why are you handling it that way? You need to address these things. Online marketing. What's your plan? They have an outdoor kitchen. Will it be on Pinterest? Showing feedback, creating urgency. How are you going to create urgency? How are these people going to know what happened in their house? Have a plan. Stick to it. What's your communication cadence going to be? As a lot of you got into this market 2013, 2014, and you think everything basically sells in 2 weeks. Wait till you start to have houses on the market for 7 and 8 months. It's a totally different world, and you have to be so on top of communication. You will stick it out only if you're highly in front of that agent. Every time a list expires and they go to a new agent, really it's not the agent. It's that agent wasn't in touch with them and did not care for that relationship for 6 months. And I get frustrated when they list with someone else and it's the lower price you've been saying. You just didn't build the trust to get them to where they needed to be. Photos and staging, how will you handle that? Team structure and benefit. If you are an individual agent, you have an amazing team. You have your attorney, you have your home inspector, you have a lender, you have our marketing department, you have amazing broker owners, you have, all kinds of things at your disposal, but you need to sell yourself as a team. That's what the consumer is expecting, is a group of people who are going to take care of them. They worry if it's just you out there, who's going to take care of me if something happens? Or you have a wedding when the offer comes in. Next. Some of you have probably actually said out loud, I feel like a therapist, right? You are. We're not degreed in this. We're not certified, but all day long, we are absolutely therapists. And we need to treat our business more like we are a therapist. And we do that by acting like therapists. Now, I'm leading you to the answer here, but what do therapists do to be effective?
Listen.
They listen and ask questions. Again, people don't like to be told what to do. When people go to the therapist, they don't go there to find out what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to do self-discovery, right? That's what the whole process is, self-discovery. And I'm going to suggest that the listening appointment needs to be self-discovery so that you're not telling them what to do, so that your clients are discovering what they need to do. You're going to lead them down the path to success. It is your job. Shut up. We talk too much. I talked in the first couple about being a self-promotional jerk. It's all about them. I was reading an article this morning. Some professor at Harvard, we've all heard the expression buyers are liars. The consumer makes decisions and then, justifies them later. We've heard all of these things. But he said it's not just that they are saying different things than they're actually doing. They're lying to themselves. They're not just lying to you. I can't impress on you enough. There is no place in your brain for words when it comes time to decision making. None. There are no words in the decision making part of your brain. It is complete feeling. Every decision is based completely on feeling, justified by words later. When you understand that the entire listing process is how you make people feel and how you motivate them, that's going to be your success. If you had a really weird medical issue, do you want to go to the doctor from Harvard who's highly degreed and really smart? Do you want to go to the experienced doctor who's seen it all? Or do you want to go to the doctor who's going to sit with you and spend some time and ask you questions? Think about that in terms of real estate. I've sold a lot of houses. I know a lot of agents have sold a lot of houses. They're not particularly good. They sell a lot of houses. I know really smart agents. They aren't particularly good at what they're doing. And I know these amazing agents who take amazing care of clients. That is who you want. And this is the only reason they can take care of them is because they know what they're trying to do. They know what's going on inside their head. That's Mary's topic next week. I'm too cheap to spend the $89 to get the audio on this. You're just going to have to watch it. This is all you need to see, though. This is a doctor dealing with a patient. This should be exactly what your listing presentation looks like. Ready? No, there's no audio. Just watch. Right. She's discouraging? Oh, I thought she was wonderful. Look at this. This is actually off a medical site on how to be a doctor, right? This is where this came from. So what do we got going on here? Real empathy. Doesn't she look like she cares? What else? You tell she's listening. What else? She's taking notes. Did someone mention that before? Taking notes. What else? I like that. Now, for most part, like if I went up to Paige right now and said, "Oh, Paige, it's been so wonderful to have you at boot camp," she's okay with that. Be appropriate. Yeah, because it's okay, right? You know, guys have to be careful about touching women. We all know that. But sometimes it's okay. Read the situation. Use appropriate filters. Touching is lovely. Who doesn't want a hug? Right? When appropriate. Be careful. Right? That's what all that is. And wonderful eye contact there. I once went with an agent new to our company on a listing appointment, and this agent was listening to the seller, and she wasn't taking the notes. It was just driving me crazy. I was thinking, how are you going to remember it? That is, I can't reinforce that enough. Write down everything they say. I was with a friend, he's a guy from Mintz Levin, who gave me a little black book. He said, bring it out with your friends. Bring it all the time. When you take notes about people, they just love you. If I can make fun of Ramsey for a second, it was Laura who taught me this, my sister Laura. When the kids were little, ever have a little kid go, can I have a popsicle? Can I have a popsicle? Can I play outside? Can I play outside? Will you read me a book? Will you read me, like, on and on and on? And this is how Laura solved it. She said, let me write that down, Ramsey. Ramsey wants a popsicle. She said, it instantly solved the problem. You don't realize, but I'm sorry, Ramsey, but you know, we've been together a long time. He turned out awesome. All right. Oh, thank you, Bianca. I apparently have done something. Here you go. Excellent. All right. Strategies for building real estate value. Let's go through this. Benjamin Moore even calls front of their website the psychology of color. There isn't one of you that can't go back into any decade and say, what were the colors? If I say 70s, you know it's harvest gold, avocado, and brown. 80s, dusty rose, and Wedgwood, guys. That was it, right? 90s, we started to get colors, but that was a big forest green time. When you can see those forest green tubs and tiles, 1990s. Then we got into the 2000s. What did we do? We broke out in painted every dining room red. All the hallways were gold, right? And we had all of that. Sage was big everywhere. Every room, different color. And that's what we did. Because we were reacting to a lot of white, right? Then do you remember in the, I don't know, late 2010, 2011, 2012, brown and blue? All of a sudden, everyone's hallway was brown. The towels you bought at Target were brown and blue. That's how it went. It was only 5 or 6 years ago that at this boot camp I said, guys, there's nowhere to go but white. And you know what everyone told me? We're never going to do white. You can't predict the future. But I mean, there's no place else to go because I don't think it's going to be wallpaper. All right? And it has gone so white. We all walk in lockstep. What are the two most prevalent color cars out there on the road today? White and gray, silver, right? That's what you see out there. What colors are we painting everything? Gray. And gray, everywhere. I'm going to do this fast. This is what it looks like, right? This is what sells all the time. It's kind of that simple now. If it's not these colors, you will get less money. End of story. Furniture, gotta have stages who have white furniture, a lot of gray too. Pops of color are good. I'm just telling you what the basics are here. I counted there are 216 whites in the Benjamin Moore color frame. But you can't see the colors here great, but I will tell you, frostine is mint. Just because it's a white color does not mean that's a good idea. If you paint everything mint green, that's gonna be very bad for your listing, right? Classic gray is great. Ivory white, Oxford, ballet white, lily white, just a hint of blue. Calm. For the guys in the room who don't know what color to tell their client to paint it, calm. You cannot almost go wrong. It's got this great color. It kind of looks warm. It can look cool. You can't go wrong with calm. If you are, it's not showing well here. Cedar Key has a little bit more warm in it. Balboa Mist is a little bit more gray and cool. So here's the rule of thumb. If the house has woodwork, natural woodwork, don't paint it gray because that's going to clash. That's a cool against the warm. You're going to need the warmer Cedar Key. If everything's painted white and you're going to go gray, use the Balboa Mist. Look at their furniture, whether it should be warm or cool. But this, I can't tell you how often. Linda, can you give me the colors? I used to put it on weird pieces of paperwork at leading edge because I kept getting asked the colors. Here's the colors. All right. It is so important how you visually portray things. About 6 or 7 years ago, this is my in-laws' house. It's down in Rhode Island. It is April. It is Easter. I go down and finish fussing it up because we've hired an agent down there, but you know who thinks she knows what she's doing and is going to change all the rules for Rhode Island real estate. I get the pictures back, and I'm shocked. I say to David, I didn't see all those flowers. Boy, Rhode Island must be a lot further south than Boston because I can't believe how green the grass is and stuff. No, they weren't there. This is Box Brownie. There is a place to upgrade and make things look more beautiful. I went right on this guy's listing. Here's the house. That's what's in MLS. I'm going to suggest it does attract more people, but if you don't disclose this, you're going to be buying people a lot of azaleas and putting in new lawns if you haven't fully disclosed you're using this. Jen.
I use it a lot for snow and for skies.
That's great. I love that.
Not for grass.
Right.
That's
She uses it for snow and skies. Box Brownie is also really good. You got a teenage bedroom that's just a nightmare. It's painted black, whatever, and you can say in MLS, this is what it will look like. Those things make a lot of sense. So it's time and full disclosure that will help you sell a property, but be honest. I like this story because I went to Rhode Island and I said, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to stage. They said, oh, no, we don't really do staging down here. You have to remember that in Rhode Island, it was the highest unemployment in New England. Their market was not recovering 6 or 7 years ago. They were still in the tank. Nothing was moving. Average days on market, 272 days. And I was like, oh, I don't do that. I sell things in a week. This is what we do. And they went, oh, no. And you don't need to stage. Oh, yes, we need to stage, so I'm going to stage. Also, we're going to hold offers for a week. We don't do that here. We do now. That's how we're going to do things. Things work. They were afraid to be different. This is a classic 1980s built condo. You can see what I'm dealing with here. The ceiling fan. We can fix it. Look at the grout in that tile. Matter of fact, that's still a big problem that people have. People are putting in beautiful tile in their kitchens and baths, and then their tile guy picks the grout and is ruining their beautiful tile. You can date things by tile. We got old parquet floors. You'll notice that my flowers move. All you need is some good flowers, and you move them for the photographer as you go along. Look at the brass. I should have painted the fireplace white or black. I did not. Rookie mistake, so to speak. Still the brass thing, but we're dealing it. We made it look so much better. We took it out of the 1980s. All right, we're going to go fast here. On that, we sold it in 7 days. All the comps said 375, maybe 380 on a good day. After I take 275 days, we put about $15,000 into it, and we sold it for $4.25 in a week. It works. First of all, my in-laws were willing to do whatever I said. They were cooperative, right? But they've been listening to me too. Whatever you say, Linda. You need to get your clients in that place, but they don't know you. They're not related to you. They're not going to do whatever you say. So you need listing systems to ensure success. So it all starts on the telephone. People completely squander the first phone call, which is crazy. The first phone call is your initial contact. As Ramsey said, you got 3 minutes to make a good impression. 3 lousy, crummy minutes. Most people will size you up in about 5 seconds. That's all you got. I used to do this great thing at boot camp where I'd ask someone to come and dress, and look good, and I'd then stay outside for all of boot camp. And then I said, close your eyes. I'd bring that person up. And then I'd say, open your eyes, and they'd look at the person. I gave them 5 seconds. They said, close your eyes, the person left. And I'd say, describe that person. So when it was Mary one year, they said, wow, she smiled the whole time. She just seemed so nice. She's dressed really well. She's super professional. She looks really athletic. They had never met Mary. They described her beautifully in 5 seconds. It can take you weeks and months to change the first impression. Do not squander the first phone call. This is actually, like when I say the biggest innovation I had in real estate was the first phone call on a listing presentation call. All right? So here's how it goes. Oh, sorry. When they call you, what they do is they say, hey, Deb, you just called me, right? And you need to sell. So what are you going to say to me? Hey, Linda.
I just called you.
Yeah, you just called me.
Hey, Linda.
How are you, Deb?
I'm great. How are you?
Why'd you call?
Calling to see if you're thinking about selling your home.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't get it. You already are selling your home.
Oh.
You're selling your home, Deb.
I'm the person.
You're selling your home. So you're calling me. Hi, Deb, why'd you call?
All right.
Why'd you call?
Why'd you call?
Okay, she's not understanding. That's all right, Deb, we're going to move on. All right, so usually what happens here is I want to sell my house, right?
I'm not being on reverse.
I'm so you weren't. She's just the agent. She can't get over being the agent. I understand that. She's hardwired to be the agent. So when people call, they call, Linda, I'm thinking about selling my house. I want you to come over and give me the price or an opinion of value or a market analysis. And why do they do that? They do that because their attorney, their friends, their brother-in-law all told them, don't sell unless you get 3 prices. Some people get 5. I've been one of 8. All right? Because that's what you do. Because you don't want to be undermined by somebody who's going to sell quick. You need to find out what this is worth. And when you as the agent get on the phone and you agree to come over and give someone a price, you have made your first tragic mistake. Because if you go over there and to the house and you say to them, come over and be glad to give you a market analysis, you are now competing on price. Who are they going to hire? If Tamara gives me $400,000, Deb gives me $380,000, and Deb, who's a really seasoned agent, knows exactly I'm not going to get it over $360,000 no matter what I do. Deb in this case, the most seasoned agent has a great saleable price ratio. Are they going to hire Deb? No. And Tamara doesn't even know what she's doing. No, she does. But why do they hire Tamara? They hire Tamara because not just the price. Obviously, Tamara appreciated my house more. You missed all its features, Deb. Tamara knows it, and she understands the value of my house. And this is what happens to every real estate agent who does what every other real estate agent is doing and comes out and agrees to give a price on a house. So we must stop it. Now, from this point forward, no more opinion of values, no more market analysis, no more anything about price. When someone calls you on the phone and they say, Linda, come over, I need a market analysis on my house, I need a price on my house, your answer is going to change to, oh, I know that's why you called me, but that's not really why you called. This confuses them because that's exactly why they called. All right? No. You called me because you're looking for strategies to get the most money when you sell your house. And that's what I'm here for. Price is a part of it. It's not my house, it's your house, it's your money. You will determine the price that you want to put on it. You've hired me to get you the most money and the strategies to do that. When you change the paradigm of the conversation, the whole process changes. Go to battle with questions, just like a therapist. You all have the questions. You don't have to write them down. What you might want to do is take notes of how I answer them, how I respond on the phone at each point of this phone conversation. Now, when someone called me and said, Linda, I need a price on my house, I would say, great, let's chat. Do you have about 45 minutes? How many people would give you 45 minutes? None. Yeah, they don't have time for that. They're going to call Century 21. They're going to call Coldwell Banker. They don't have time. But I can tell you right now, unless they start to say, oh, I don't have time, we can finish this conversation, it's going to go at least 30 minutes, if not 45 minutes. And they're glad to do it because nobody else took the time to find out what's really going on and how to help them. Besides, they love talking about their own house. So these questions are killer. I can't tell you how often I've given this class to some of our own agents. They only 5 of them or 10 of them. It's the full Monty. Either you kind of go through this process or you don't. You make a choice. If they can't talk, make a decision. There's nothing worse than going on opinion value for someone that you emailed and you haven't talked to. You're walking into the appointment completely unprepared. If you go through these questions, you are going to be prepared better than any agent ever could be. You will know the price. You'll know everything. So as you go to battle with questions, the very first question you're going to ask is, Nina, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your house?
Oh, it's gotta be 10.
Well, hold on. Okay. Everyone thinks, no, that's all right. Everyone here is thinking, they're all going to tell them, I have an awesome house. But I'm setting the stage. 1 means it's in deplorable condition. It's probably a tear down, bring in the bulldozers. Or 10 meaning it is on an A+ street. It has amazing curb appeal. The landscaping is perfect. When you walk into the house, you feel like you've just walked into a photo shoot for Architectural Digest. It is all painted in today's hip, trendy, monotone colors. It is staged to perfection. My kitchens and baths are state of the art. Nina, how would you rate your house? A 5. That's a little low. That's a little low. She's being so honest and she's in, right? You don't have a 5. But anyway, but it brings them to reality, right? When you do that, the most common answer is 7 because everybody's house is better than average, just like our children. They're all better than average, right? So 7's what you get. The beauty is not in this question, it's in the follow-up. What would it take to make it a 10? What happens now is potential clients now start to tell you what's wrong with their house. Now you're in the catbird seat because you don't have to tell them what's wrong. Oh, the kitchen, was new in 1990. I know the street's a little bit busy. Geez, I really haven't had landscapers in here professionally in a long time. It needs to be cleaned up. The bath, my upstairs bath, I did the master, but the main bath upstairs still has pink and black tile, whatever it is. They're going to tell you. This is where the process starts to work for you. Because now they're telling you what's wrong, and they understand, because they've just announced the deficiencies of their property to you. This is gold. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, this is not a question, but I just like to say this. I just want you to know that when you sell your house, it's like the Price is Right game show. I don't know if you remember how you win on the Price is Right, but how you win is, the person who won was the person who got closest to fair market value, what? Without going over. That's how you win. In real estate, it's just like the Price is Right. Now, we all know that in Massachusetts, you cannot meet with a client without having an agency disclosure form. And you're not required to have one until your first face-to-face meeting. But I'm going to suggest that we're going to get so intimate on the phone that you should give them their Miranda rights. You should let them know, hi, I just want to let you know you haven't hired me yet. Just want to let you know you shouldn't tell me anything you wouldn't want to tell me unless you were planning to hire me, because you wouldn't want me to know things if I brought a buyer to your house. Simple. By the way, they will still continue to tell you things they shouldn't, but at least you can sleep at night. That's how it goes. Have you been following the market? You want this very specifically noted because, yeah, I've been following, or yes or no, but if they have, what houses, where, what do they know? Ask them, what did that sell for? Because often they don't have their information right. And so you've got to put their brain into what's really happening. Congratulate them. Some people are so good they could go out and price property for you. They pay attention all the time. It's the real estate porn. They are into it, they know what's going on, and they're good at it. You have buyers who know this is overpriced, this is a deal, you know it. You get good at it. Why? Why are you moving? You need to have very specifics on this, because this is what you're going to use throughout the entire transaction when they're not cooperating. You need to be, you don't want to be living in this house alone while your husband is in Seattle. Why? And of course, when do you want to be there? What's their time frame? Do you need kids in school? Is the money run out of the mother's estate to, for nursing care, and they need to sell? You need to know why and when. How much do you want to sell for? So many agents are scared, as Steve would say, of asking what they think. That's an uncomfortable question. If you walk into a listing appointment and you do not know what that seller is expecting, you are setting yourself up for unmitigated disaster. Because sometimes they're way off. Now, what's not uncommon is, if I said, Deb, what do you think your house is worth? You might say to me, that's why I called you, right? Of course they're going to say that. Don't let them wiggle out of it, okay? Surely, Heather, you have some idea. And this is the important part of the question. I really need to know what's inside your head, because I just need to know how much I'm going to disappoint you. I always said that. Am I setting new expectations? I just need to know how much I'm going to disappoint you. But you're going to hire me because you're going to see how I'm going to get you the most money. Even though I'll probably give you the lowest price and charge you the most commission. That is setting the tone right on the phone. Over and over again, when I started to say, why did you hire me? Over and over again, I heard, strategies. You're the only one that had strategies. That word became gold. And they were prepared when other agents came in and told them a much higher price. You only had to mention the name Linda Okaneski, and you were going to get a discount from everybody else in the market. I knew I was at. So I know definitively people will pay a higher commission when you present true quality and they believe it's in their best interest. All day long. It's the reason they wear Rolexes. I was just talking to Ramsey. Some of these Rolexes don't even tell great time, but people love to wear them, right? You will pay for things you perceive to have high value. How did you arrive at that price? Super important, because if they only remember the asking price and not what that house sold for, you're doomed. What did they know? How did you get there? Because when you go back the next day and you say to them, Joanne, I know you want $775 for your house, and the good news is I can get it, but we are building an addition in a 2-car garage. All right? Whatever it might, have a sense of humor. It's okay. You're going to need a master bath. Every single comp, Joanne, had way more land. Can we get more land for you? If we get more land on this property, no, right? Are you interviewing other agents? Find out what you're up against. You should know the market. If they've got a Redfin agent coming in, you've gone through that class, you should be able to respond to that 1% commission. And if not, you better start thinking about that. What do you expect of the agent you hire? We are pre-programmed to think all they want is their money, right? By the way, the drivers and sometimes the super analytical people, that's all they want. I'm going to hire the agent that's going to get me the most money. But so many people just need someone to help me get out of here. I need to get on time. Where are the resources? What am I going to do with the kids? I had a doctor once, a female doctor, who said, Linda, I really want to move. I'm giving you the house for a weekend. It'll never look this clean again. If you don't sell on a weekend, I'm just staying. That was it. She meant it. I can never do this again. You have to sell it. How will you measure success in our relationship? Again, sometimes money. The last 2 realtors never called me. I didn't know what was going on. They might crave communication. The last agents wouldn't do any open houses. The last agents, weren't giving me any, it's like, what do they really want? And how are they measuring success for you? How long have you lived in your home? On the phone, that's a really key question, because you know what you're going to get into when you get there. If they say 40 years, some people in their 40 years will surprise you and be very hip and sexy, but not usually. Remember, right? Do you have a second mortgage? Do you have a home equity? Refinance in the last 3 years? You need to know what their financial position is. Pardon?
You might want to note to realtors that clients or customers, they do not know that second mortgages or home equities are a mortgage.
That I have seen that. Kathy brings up a good point. So many of your consumers don't realize that their home equity is a second mortgage, because some of them have 0 balances, right? Or they just don't consider them that way. It was just another thing. I just got, this little fund of money. They don't understand they need to be paid off. I have seen people who thought that mortgage should just go with them. They like their home equity. But they're not going to close that one off. Right? Haven't you seen that? Absolutely. Is the money you say you need more important than getting your home sold and moved by? When you have that X there, when you know when they need to sell it by, that's really confronting them with their reality. Because it's often time or money when you go to sell, right? So do you need your money, or do you want to be there on time? Because they want it all. They want to get a dollar and get gone and sold by the time they want to get there. What is your contact information, and what is your preference? Would you rather be texted? Do you want to be emailed, or do you want to talk? Ask. People love that you care. And then, there are times, if they only want to text, that's when you have to say, there are times we really should be talking. Email is such a poor way. That's when people don't understand. People only email. That's how people like their agents. There's no warm and fuzzy in it. What is your favorite and least favorite thing about your home? The favorite thing better damn show up in the description of property, right? Those favorite things. But sometimes the least favorite thing is something you might have missed that's going to affect value. My favorite was the one at night. I didn't see that the Hells Angels lived next door. That is, and I'm glad I got that figured out before I listed it and put a price on it. Does anyone in your home smoke? This is a critical question, because you as an agent cannot walk into anybody's house and tell them it stinks. But if it's just part of your practice, it's part of the system, it's obviously important, it makes it so much easier. If they say, why do you ask? Your answer is, oh, I just want you to know that in the event I can tell someone smokes, that'll be tens of thousands of dollars off your price. Depending on your market, it could be hundreds of thousands of dollars off your price. Same thing with pets. Do you have any pets? When they answer, I have 7 cats. Can you smell it already? Not everywhere, right? And if you're new in the business, you need to know that if a cat pees on the wood floor, there is no fixing it. You can only replace the floors. That's it. Not to mention people gag. When Allison and I used to go out together, if there were cats, she'd like, I will go, I will be polite, but I got to get out of there. Because she's going to be crying and sniffling the rest of the day, even if she took her allergy medication. Details of the house. This is super critical that you go through every bit of it, bit by bit. How old is the kitchen? All that's there. Tell me, what do you have on the countertop? I have Formica. What kind of cabinets do you have? They're oak cabinets. What's on the floor in the kitchen? Pink ceramic tile. What kind of hardware do you have? Oh, it's brass. Can everyone see that kitchen? Just like if I said, oh, I have white shaker cabinets. I have a beautiful dark hardwood floor. All of my countertop is beautiful marble, Carrara marble. And I've got brushed nickel hardware. Totally different place. When you get the answers to these questions, you don't really have to see someone's house. If you know the square footage, the bedrooms, the bath, everything, if you know what the bathrooms are like, I'm telling you can price the house. You don't think you can, but any seasoned agent has gone running back to their office going, I just went to a house, let's see if I'm on the same price, right? And you describe it to them. And then your coworker who has never seen the house goes, that's definitely $570. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And then you can go work backwards into comps. You can, and you need to be confident there. My favorite ever was Mr. Carr. My mom and I went out there, and as we pulled up, I could see the roof shingles kind of hanging on for dear life from the top of the roof. Mr. Carr, how old is your roof? Oh, it's a new roof, he said. I said, what year did you put it on? 1968. This is what we're dealing with, though, right? To Mr. Carr, who had put that roof on, that was a new roof. Just like everything that they've done during their homeownership is new. Are you planning to sell as is, or are you looking for the best return on investment? Again, they don't want to do any work, and they want the best return on investment. I'm giving it as a choice, because I'm going to give 2 different prices, right? So what's your choice? Make them think about it. They might not be committed. Lots of people start off in the as-is category until they find out how much money they're going to lose as is. Are you thinking of selling your home yourself? You need to be hyper aware if they are for sale by owner. Anybody ever given your description of property to them and then seen it in MLS later? They will do that. They will do that. You're going to be a little cagier and careful, but your job mostly is to let them know, depending on the market, for sale by owners lose between, they say 6 and 8%, 10% down the Cape, they say. So it's a lot more expensive usually to not have an agent. Never mind, you get all the work. Janet Aguilar has a story about working a for sale by owner, but she was with the buyer's agent. She said, we took him to the cleaners. He had an attorney, but his attorney wasn't a real estate attorney. It was a friend who didn't know real estate either. Tons of equity in your for sale by owner. Don't you love that? There you go. Would you like me to send you packing boxes? Yes, bribery will get you everywhere. You have the, right in the questions is bizboxinc.com. You can have them custom made. They will put your logo on it, your name, not logo, I guess. And what a great way to send a message. When I used to say, would you like me to send you packing boxes? Why would you do that? Oh, it's just my little symbolic gesture that it's time to clean up and declutter and get ready. How hard is it to list a house with somebody who just sent you packing boxes with somebody else? It's almost impossible. The rule of reciprocity kicks in. Kathy? It's on the sheet that you have. It's on the bottom of that sheet. What?
Do you ever get like partway through the questions and then they say that they're too busy?
Okay, this is very rarely, like, I have to go pick up my kids at school. Let's talk. But what everyone here was experiencing, like, this is too long, I can't do this, people will not stay on the phone with me. Never had a problem unless they had no intention of hiring a realtor. And they just wanted you for price. And I can often turn those people around, right? That is a signal. If they're serious, they're selling their most important investment where all their equity is, likely they don't have any more money than that's in this house. They will take the time all day long. Ethan? 30 to 45 minutes. And they have gone over an hour, and I can speed them up into 20 minutes. But you want this information. You come so completely and thoroughly prepared. You can't, nobody, like when I say I never lost, we didn't lose. I can still remember the one time going, Linda, I want to hire you. You are definitely the best. My sister lives in Hingham. She obviously doesn't know, but I can never go to another family gathering unless I hire my sister. Like, I get it. But some of those people can be turned around too, because you're thinking, you don't, are you kidding? She's going to be charged with a negotiation and everything else now? You can almost always turn those people around.
What if it's
Lauren?
an acquaintance that you've been to their house just briefly, but you don't really see them often, so it's like a friend, but you've seen their house before, and they call you and ask you, or you start this.
Are they starting, are you talking about, they're
Like
thinking
you're
about
starting
selling?
to sell, yeah.
Go right, absolutely. And you know why? Lauren, this is such a good question. I've already been to the house. I know the house. Why am I even asking these questions? Because you've got to start the psychology and you have to take the friend hat off.
Yes.
You must take the friend hat off. Nothing worse than getting to a closing with your own sister, who you didn't treat like a client, and she turns to you and says, what's stamp tax? Whoops. I didn't treat, when they thought about moving, I said, you're coming in the office. She said, I'm not coming to the office doing a presentation. You and Kevin are coming in the office, and I'm just telling you now, because I'm not having any of this stuff go on, you're coming in, and you're going to hear the whole thing, because I'm not your sister anymore. I will now be your agent. That is, and if they won't, they're not taking you seriously and their endeavor seriously. Okay. I just want you to remember this line. Staging is not a decorating decision. It's a business decision. You will see it again in the course of this. Because people resist over and over again. Why should I do the work? They are selling a commodity. It's a product for market. They need to understand. Staging is not a decorating decision. It's a business decision. I'm going to show you a quick little clip from Candid Camera.
The gentleman in the elevator now is a Candid star. These folks who are entering, the man with a white shirt, the lady with a trench coat, and subsequently one other member of our staff, will face the rear. And you'll see how this man in the trench coat tries to maintain his individuality, but little by little, he looks at his watch, but he's really making an excuse for turning just a little bit more to the wall. Now we'll try it once again. Here's the Candid subject. Here comes the Candid camera staff, 3 of them at least. And this man has apparently been in groups before. Now, here's a fella with his hat on in the elevator. First he makes a full turn to the rear, and Charlie closes the door. A moment later, we'll open the door. Everybody's changed positions. Now we'll see if we can use Now we'll see if we can use group pressure for some good. Now, in a moment, on Charlie's signal, everybody turns forward. There it is. Notice they take off their hats. And now, do you think we could reverse the procedure? Watch.
We are hardwired. Is this what I've described on the phone that hard? Like, is this life-changing? But it feels so uncomfortable. This isn't the way you've done it before. Your success rate will go up astronomically if you will embrace it. Maybe you could be like Rick Barry.
The playoff experience Rick Barry has. He realized Kazzy had his hand was reaching in there and just went up for the shot and created the foul. And he doesn't miss many foul shots.
In the regular season, Rick Barry averaged 21.8 points a game. Here in the playoffs against Detroit and now Los Angeles, he is averaging 30.6. He is hitting 47% from the field, an increase over his regular season 44%, and you already know he's a magnificent free throw shooter.
Swoop. I just gave you the swoop. All right? When something goes wrong in your life, just yell, plot twist, and move on. And then from Rob Ramsdell, probably didn't catch it in the little feed, this has been my favorite thing this week. This is a 14-month-old, and they're in Newfoundland, so they've used glitch as a verb. Ready? So Carrie Forth will do more listing things and have C. Ramsey again on Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody.